All right, so good evening. Excuse me. Tonight's November 18th, 2013. This is our final day for the public hearing for the adoption of the 2014 Rhinebeck Town Board budget, the community budget. And we are, you have any points to make, Bruce?
I'd just like to say that I think the board worked really hard this time. We came in under the tax cap. If for the general funds, taxes will go up 2 cents per thousand, which really is pretty good in this day and age compared to other towns. For the part town funds, it'll go up 6 cents and varies through. The biggest change was with the Rhinebeck Fire Protection District, which will go up 4 cents per thousand. So I think we covered everything. We've got the initiatives, we've got the implementation of the comp plan, we've got the leveraging of technology, we've got new equipment, we're fixing the stuff that's been broken for years. So I think it's a good budget. And we didn't have to lay anybody off.
And we what?
We didn't have to lay anybody off this year.
Oh.
In fact, people get a 2% raise in general. So.
Bruce, have any comments, Joe?
No, I think we did work hard. I think it's a budget where I think our dipping into the unexpended fund balance is smaller than in the past, and I think there is a trend down. I think that's the right direction to go. I think that Bruce has worked very hard on the drafts, and I thank him for that. And I think that's my comments.
Great.
I just have one. The reason we didn't dip into the general fund for the fund balance was because that was the one place that we needed to shore up a little bit. That should come out about 34% surplus at the end of the year, where the others were all very healthy. So, and the general fund is healthy, but so.
All right. All right, I appreciate it. Appreciate all your work, you guys. It's great, especially finally the economy seems to be creating some sort of stability since we got into office in 2008. It was a economic free fall ever since then, and it's been such a challenge ever since 2008. But Rhinebeck has fared well, especially compared to many communities throughout the world. Last year, I've noticed an increase at the end of the year of our fund balance of 1.4 plus million to 1.6 plus million. So it does indicate that we are seeing some sort of stability to our revenues, which is nothing but a big plus for the outlook for the future. But anyways, the board did work very hard, and I appreciate their diligence. We might as well, being that there is no public here today, we might as well make a motion and second to adopt the budget.
Motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So the 2014 budget is so adopted. This will be posted on our website as soon as possible. And further beyond that, we also have a public hearing for the Vanderbilt Cove Sewer District. You want to comment on that, Bruce? Bruce has been our lead on this, so you can take that over.
The Vanderbilt Cove budget is essentially the same as last year. The dollar amount is the same per household. We juggled some things around inside, but with the fulfillment of the DEC grant, and we now know all the variables, and we were able to keep it flat from year to year. So I'm happy with that. I'd like to make a motion to accept the Vanderbilt Cove Sewer District budget as well.
Motion, I'll second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
So moved. This is also posted, I believe, on our website, right?
Mhm.
John, is that correct? Yeah, okay. So that concludes our meeting, our adoption of the 2014 budget.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Motion, second to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
Brad, are we off?
You're going live.
You know, when they get cut off after very brief.
Yep, I think so. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board to order. I believe that the one addition to the agenda, just for planning board members, is we do have a schedule for next year's meeting for us to go over and approve for our meeting dates, close of meeting and meeting dates. I'd like to have a motion to accept Art's consultant meeting notes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Motion to approve the calendar.
Motion to approve the, have you all had a chance to look at the calendar?
It's the same as this year's.
It's the same as this year's, but, you know.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we know what we're doing next year. Let's see if we have anything in here we can do before our first public hearing. Okay, yeah. The one thing we have in here we could discuss tonight is we do have a referral on the Bittersweet Bed and Breakfast. I've talked to John Lyons about this, and I think it has come to us at this point by mistake. I think that you got a memorandum from the building inspector, and I believe these sort of things have to come through the zoning enforcement officer. So John asked if we could hold off on this until December, doing anything with it, until they can figure out exactly what's intended here. So that's, that we'll hold over. Ooh.
Memo is from the CEO.
Okay. Because what I got was a memo from the
There's a letter.
building inspector.
There's a letter of November 5th from the CEO.
Okay.
And he references the inspection by the building inspector.
Okay.
Did we get that? Did we all get it?
Did everyone, it's dated November 5th, 2013, violation of special use permit 470 Württemberg Road, Rhinebeck,
From Christian?
from Christian.
Yes, we got that.
Okay.
And I certainly looked at it.
Yeah. What happened, I went and I spoke, when I got the thing from Ed, I went and I spoke with Christian and saying, have you, a letter of violation on this to the person holding the special permit? That had not happened at this point, and this is what I was discussing with John Lyons. Isn't that, a first step before you proceed? In our zoning law, the planning board has been authorized under the new zoning law to hold a public hearing, at which time, based upon what we hear at that thing, we are authorized to revoke a special use permit. But I believe that under our zoning law, before that comes to us, the person holding the special use permit has to be given some sort of violation notice. There's a process that goes through, the CEO goes through prior to coming to a hearing before the planning board, and that has not happened yet. At least that's what I was told. So I spoke with John Lyons about this, and he asked if we could hold off on this until they can sort out exactly where this all stands in the enforcement process.
Is he asking us to hold up on the review and discussion or on action?
On basically both, until we actually have confirmation that a order of compliance has actually been given, as our zoning law requires, saying what needs to be done to remediate and what's the time frame within which that has to happen. And we don't have that right now, and I haven't seen that. So he's asked if we could hold off until we're actually sure of exactly where we stand on this.
Nor is the applicant copied, nor is the potentially aggrieved party copied on this particular transmittal.
Yeah.
A couple of neighbors appear to be BC'd, but the potentially aggrieved party has not been.
It's a holdover till December, yeah. Which could bring us up to
Based on vice
our first public hearing. Okay. First, we have we actually have 3 public hearings. Well, actually have 4, but one for later tonight for seeker. Our first public hearing, the Office of J. William Commissar, LLS, for Alan Ryan III, Alan Ryan IV, Melissa Kaiser, and Sally Shaw, New York State Route 9 and Mill Road subdivision plat. Continuation from October 21st, 2013, a public hearing on application for subdivision plat approval to authorize lot line alteration between parcel 1A and parcel 2. Filed map numbers given in the Rural Agricultural RA10 district and the town's local waterfront revitalization area, resulting in a 10.39 acre residential building lot and a 31.11 acre agricultural use parcel, being an unlisted action under seeker, recommendation to ZBA on requested area variance for lot frontage and authorization of preparation of draft approval resolution. Are the applicants here? Yes.
Kay Commissar from the Surveyor's Office. I have a very brief report. We did attend the ZBA on November 6th, presented the project to them. It has to have a public hearing, and unfortunately, the closest public hearing date is this coming Wednesday, the 20th. Therefore, I have nothing new to report. I'm going to request a continuation in this until we have a reading from the ZBA.
Okay. As I understand it, what you're asking for is the variance in terms of frontage to reduce it down from what's required.
Correct.
And then we would use what was called the tractor entrance to go into the property. Mm-hmm. Okay. Planning board members, any questions at this point? We have opened the public hearing, so if anyone wants to speak right now, I think we're going to be continuing this public hearing to December. But if anyone wishes to speak tonight, they certainly are welcome to do so. Hearing none. Anything else from the planning board tonight? Could I hear a motion to continue this public hearing to our December meeting at 6:35? 6:35.
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? Very good. Okay, so we'll see you in December at 6:35.
Okay, you have the matter of the recommendation to the ZBA on the area variance to deal with.
Right.
There is a draft resolution to that, to dealing with that in the meeting notes at page 2. And Michael, is there any opportunity to discuss the alternative I suggested with the applicant?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
Because I didn't talk to you about it until
Okay.
Saturday, so we haven't. Basically, the recommendation is that the ZBA approve the reduction in frontage to permit this access to this property. Currently, what happened is there was a subdivision done some time ago, and the 10-acre lot and the 31-acre lot were supposed to be joined together. And then, of course, they have plenty of frontage on Mill Road and on Route 9. The 10-acre lot has no road frontage, but it was not supposed to be left as a standalone lot, but for some reason, they never were merged, and therefore it is a standalone lot. So I believe what I will do is I will read the resolution that Art has here for us. Basically, we'll see what it says. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board has reviewed upon referral the application for area variance submitted by Alan Ryan III, Alan Ryan IV, Melissa Kaiser, and Sally Shaw, ZBA case 847, and finds the requested variance to authorize reduced road frontage to raise no significant planning, zoning, or environmental issues in the context of the existing pattern of residential development within the RA10 district, while permitting proposed residential use of a parcel heretofore lacking any road frontage. The Planning Board understands there to be the presence of practical difficulties cited in the application and recommends the ZBA rely upon its own study of the facts and decide this application in accordance with the criteria and procedures set forth at Town Code Chapter 125, Section 125-124C and D. Also, I have a letter from, and I think you all have a copy, and if you don't, I'll make sure you get it, from Kathy Kinsella, who has surveyed the site, and the entrance that they are proposing to use and that the variance is based upon is the one that Kathy would prefer to see used at this time. So we also have that. Could I hear a motion to approve the resolution of recommendation to the ZBA?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And, 1 minute to go. What will be coming up is Stephen and Pamela Mensch, 215 Mill Road, subdivision plat, conduct a public hearing on application for subdivision plat review and approval to authorize proposed lot line alterations totaling 7.32 acres and affecting two board parcels in the rural agricultural RA10 district and the town's local waterfront revitalization area, being a type 1 action under secret for which the planning board is the sole involved agency. And as soon as we get the second hand up on the 12, Marie can begin.
The end with the arrow, like a north arrow? Is that the one I was
That's the one we're going to, that works too.
When the big hand points to the little hand.
Check with John on the noticing circulation thing.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we're good to go, and as Art reminds me, we're all set with the notification, and Joni has the receipts and all the good stuff from the paper and all that jazz, and the sign was out front.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Not used to doing this. So I'm here tonight with an application by Stephen Mensch, the owner of several pieces of property on Mill Road in the town. And he has proposed a lot line alteration to basically provide some privacy to the existing house and structures on Lot 4. The division between the properties that he owns, lots 1, 2, and 3, from previously filed maps in Lot 4, runs more or less down the the Landsman Kill. And so what he has proposed to do is amend the lot lines to push the lot line on the other side of the Landsman's Kill, which will then give him control on both sides of the stream, will give privacy to the existing house, the semblance of protection so that they don't have to worry about, you know, trespassers and other people having access and doing stuff on the opposite side of the stream. I know the site visit, we took that last week. They'll discuss that, I'm sure, but the situation of this house is such that having that protection and privacy is well worth the changing of the lot lines. And the question came up with regards to this parcel D that we have, where the road frontage for the existing Lot 3 will become part and parcel of Lot 4. And the planning board looked into it and determined that because it's the way the zoning is written now, they can have access through this existing private driveway. I had provided the planning board with copies of the driveway maintenance agreement and common easement, so that should have been in your packets when I submitted it before we came to the initial meeting. So right now we're looking to provide a 0.61 acre parcel from Lot 1 and a 6.710 acre parcel from Lot 3. The remaining lots will be well within the minimum lot range, and that's pretty much what we're doing.
Okay. Who did the site visit? You guys want to report on what you saw?
Well, I think what the applicant is doing here makes perfect sense. I don't see any impact as far as any impact whatsoever. It just enhances the property, I think. So I have no problem with it.
It's in addition to making it a nice private, giving it privacy, it also protects the whole stream, the waterfall system, everything about it that is integral with that house and that property. So, I mean, it's actually, everyone should be very happy that this is being done.
Okay, thank you. Members of the planning board, any questions or comments for Marie? Members of the public, any questions or comments? Okay.
CAB Waterfront Committee.
Oh, CAB Water. Yes.
Hi, I'm Todd Young, and I'm one of the landowners that is next to Mr. Mensch, and I was just wanting to actually get an understanding of where the lot line adjustment is.
Okay, feel free to come right up and Marie can fill you in on any.
Yeah, because I can show you where your property is here. These are lots 1, 2, and 3, and Lot 4, which is the house parcel.
Okay.
This piece of land, which doesn't even border you, actually your corner and this corner are the same. It's about 60 feet going in a easterly direction from your corner and taking in about 60 feet of the property in this area and then bordering it on the east, south, and southwest of the rest of his properties where the other acreage would be. And as I
So
say,
the current line is here?
no, the current line is this one that has L164, L163,
Okay.
and this is basically the stream, but that's the easterly boundary of the stream. The stream was on that side. Actually, I should, that's the westerly boundary of the stream. I meant to change that. So what he's doing is he's crossing the stream to protect the other side of the stream and, you know, protect the area around this house. And as I say, your property's down there. So really, his lot borders you, but any of the lot line change doesn't.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to. So, okay, so this is the,
That's the Landsman scale, the wiggly line.
okay.
And he has a bridge here, and he has a bridge, a couple small bridges here. This is the dam, and the main house is over here. The road is out here.
Okay. Very good. CAB LWRP report.
Well, we find it consistent, it makes sense. It protects the buffers, protects the stream bank, consolidates the lot, and the design that will help protect the stream banks. So we'll send an official LWRP review stating its consistency with the policies.
Very good, thank you. Last chance for public comment? Members of the board, anything else? Okay, I have a draft resolution here, seeker, which I'll take my glasses off so I can read it. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, as sole involved agency, hereby acts as follows in the matter of a proposed action involving a September 25th, 2013 application by Stephen and Pamela Mensch for subdivision plat approval, review and approval under Town Code Chapter 101, subdivision of land, to authorize proposed lot line alteration totaling 7.32 acres and affecting tax map parcels, the numbers given in the Rural Agricultural RA10 District, the town's local waterfront revitalization area, and the Hudson River National Historic Landmarks District, all as depicted and or otherwise described in the application and supporting information, including a survey map entitled Amendment to Filed Maps Number 10994A and 10994B Lot Line Alteration, prepared by Marie T. Welsh, LS, and dated September 25th, 2013, both a full EAF Part 1 and a coastal assessment form signed by Ms. Welsh and an agricultural data statement. 1. Determines upon review of the EAF Part 1 and its own completion of EAF Part 2 in consideration of both the criteria for determining significance set forth in Title 6, Part 617.7C NYCRR, as well as the coastal policy set forth within the town's LWRP, the agricultural protection policy set forth within New York State Agriculture and Markets Law, and the historic preservation policies underlying the National Historic Landmarks District designation, that the proposed action as described in the application and being a Type 1 action will cause no potential significant adverse impact on the environment and thus issues a negative declaration, determination of non-significance, deeming an environmental impact statement to not be required, and stating such will not be prepared. 2. Authorizes the chairman to so execute the first page of the full EAF and directs the planning board clerk to distribute and file without requirement for publication the full EAF with negative declaration annotation in the manner set forth within the seeker implementing regulations, Title 6, Part 617.12 NYCRR. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second. All in favor? Could I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? Excellent. And we will have a resolution of approval, there you guys are, later this evening. Okay, moving right along. Our next public hearing, John Imperato, Hilltop Road subdivision plat. Conduct of public hearing on application for subdivision plat review and approval to authorize proposed lot line alteration between lands of John Imperato and lands of Frank and Kathleen Robusto, and subsequent subdivision of the modified lands of Imperato into 5.987 acre and 92.113 acre parcels in rural countryside RC5 district, being an unlisted action under seeker. Okay. And who's doing this one?
Hello, my name is John Imperato. I'm here to approval for subdivision and lot line adjustments. I have 98.10 acres on the end of Hilltop Road. At this time, I presented to the board to make a subdivision to put house on a little less than 6 acres. I want to make it into 2 parcels. One parcel will be 5.987 acres, and the other parcel will be approximately 92.113 acres.
John, can you post that on the board there, then everyone can sort of see it, and if anyone wants to come up and take a look.
Yes, you mentioned that the alteration which begins this.
And for all members of the planning board, the maps provided by the CAB for all the different things tonight are in this stapled packet. So if you go through here, you'll find the maps for John's project here. I think it's the first one, actually, the top one.
There'll be 2 entrances to the property of Buckhill Road. You can go straight ahead, you go into the large parcel. And also, you go straight up and take it left, and you get to the 5-acre or 6-acre parcel.
Okay, and I guess I spoke with Joni, and I think all the necessary notification requirements have been met. Conservation Advisory Board.
I have a question about that driveway for the smaller parcel. Could you just show us where the 2 driveways would be?
If you come up Hilltop Road, it's right here. You go straight ahead. Town property stops, and my property starts right here, and you just drive straight ahead to it.
For the small parcel, which is 6 acres.
Now that's the large parcel.
So where's the driveway?
The other parcel, when you go up Hilltop Road, right to the left, there's wasn't right away. It's straight up, approximately 40 yards from Hilltop.
Okay. There's wetlands over there. Is that anywhere near?
No. Actually, wetland, if you're familiar with the property, right here, up here is a large pond. Over here, on this side, there is also.
Jeff,
The smaller one in the front.
did you see the survey map here?
No.
Oh,
What John did not discuss, John began with discussing the ultimate subdivision of what will be his lands into the 2 lots. What was not covered was the fact that there's actually, prior to that, there's a lot line alteration occurring between his lands and those of Robusto. And it's through that lot line alteration that John will be gaining the road frontage that's required to create the smaller lot as a flag lot with frontage on Hilltop Road. And that it is all appropriately depicted on the map and described in the application.
there's a land swap between Robusto and Imparato, which permits this, and then he's cutting off the small lot for the house, and then the remainder one stays. And Hilltop Road just dead ends at his property. So I guess the road frontage is whatever Hilltop is, 12 feet or whatever it is, something like that.
Yeah.
15. It was pretty sketchy when we looked at it, so I couldn't tell what it was. But that's what that's all about. Okay. Let me see. Melody and I did the site visit, and went up and took a look. It seems that what's being proposed is perfectly reasonable. I didn't see any problems with it myself. Any further development of the larger parcel of land would require either a private road be put through there or an open development area resolution be passed, something along those lines, because Hilltop does dead end right there. There is no road frontage other than just the end of Hilltop going into the larger parcel. And so at this point, the only development will be a single-family residence on the smaller parcel. I don't know, Melody, if there's anything you'd like to add.
No, there's really not another way to get into that parcel that you want to subdivide off. I mean, it's the only route you can take when you're out there. Do we need to know where the house location is going to be? Is that important?
I think what's important is because there are wetlands in the area, as Jeff points out, that when you go to get a building permit, when you discuss this with our building inspector, you're going to want to make sure that you're not within the 100-foot buffer of the wetland, in which case you would need a wetland permit to get the building permit. So we want to make sure that when we do this, we inform Ed, and whatever approval is given, that he needs to be aware of that.
And this is running right in front of where the pool is on the Robusto property?
That's where the right of way, yeah, goes up through there.
Just below that.
The house is up above,
House, and then the pool, and then you're cutting right in front of that.
right in front, yeah, near the shrubs, you know, down below that.
Yeah, the line.
That's where the right of way is through there. And then the house is up into this area right here.
And the wetland is more over,
Yeah, it was for.
down further, yeah.
Yeah.
So it should be,
I had a question on this Robusto. My own thoughts were, because your question was that why couldn't it go up to the larger, and go over? Right?
Well, in order to do that, once again, it would probably require some form of private road to have road frontage. He still wouldn't have road frontage. So that's why this was come up with, yeah.
Michael and board, because this is a flag lot, there are, however, some technical requirements under the subregs and zoning law that have to be met and have to be depicted on the plat. I don't think it holds up planning board action, conditional action by the planning board, but those matters have to be reflected on the plat before the plat can be signed by the chair and filed in the county clerk's office. And that includes the establishment of the building line at a particular location, which is an extraordinary building location. It's not the same building line location that would apply if the lot had road frontage or had complying road frontage. There is also the requirement, because this is a relatively small lot, that there needs to be an engineer's certification, not health department approval, but an engineer's certification regarding the buildability of the parcel with respect to water supply and sanitary sewage. But those are proposed as conditions of the approval that would be monitored by Michael before he could sign the plat.
And your surveyor would understand about the building line that has to go on with that.
Yeah.
And obviously, you'd have an engineer take a look and give you the certification.
And the other item is the approval, there's the third item, and it's the matter of approval in writing of the proposed access point by the town highway superintendent.
Right. You just talked to Kathy to get a driveway permit onto Hilltop up there.
But those matters are all dealt with in the draft.
Right, as conditions.
Mr. Robusto, you're okay with this?
I'm having second thoughts. I'm quite aware of the circumstances. Originally, I thought Mr. Alvarado was going to subdivide it and have a big lot, which was just going to be held in a trust that wasn't going to be built at all, and he was going to have 5 acres of lot where he could build. So I am having some second thoughts.
Yeah,
Isn't that what you're proposing?
that's what he's doing. That's what he's proposing.
The whole parcels are up for sale, so he's kind of changing the game plan, I think, it looks like.
No, the game plan is exactly the same. I can't build unless, I mean, if you had a lot of money where you wanted to put a road in here, then I think I could get it separated into building lots. But I think I would have to put a town road in almost.
Yes, you would.
Yeah. So no, this is open. It's going to, well, stay open unless it sells, and then it's going to be up to the next person to, yeah, that's not me. If it did sell today, I'd be happy. I would sell it in a second. You know, I do have it on the market, but that'd be up to them. For me to do it, it's just not cost effective. And if I put a house here, and the original plan was, well, maybe I have to sell a smaller lot. But to be honest with you, if I put a house on this lot, for my income, I don't think I can afford the taxes on 92 acres plus a house. So originally, yeah, if I had my own way, I'd put a house right here and keep this.
I was under the impression this piece of property wasn't exactly ideal for building. I mean, it's not convenient to just cut it up and throw houses all over the place, right?
No, because there is rock, some of it is rock and stuff, and like I said, you have to at least put in either a hammerhead or a cul-de-sac. So there's expense. You could do it. I mean, if you had money.
It would represent a substantial challenge, though, to lay out septic and water and all that on that.
There are wetlands, a lot of other constraints on that parcel, yes.
Yeah. So as far as, even if somebody came in here with a ton of money to develop it or bought it, I think it would be very, very difficult. And I don't even know how many houses even you could put on it if somebody did do it. It'd be very difficult.
It's a challenging piece of land from that standpoint.
I don't think you'll ever see, you know, I think if anything, you'll see somebody buy it that puts one house on it
That's
and leaves the privacy. But I can't guarantee that. You know, that's not.
true.
Even the area where you're proposing the driveway go into the smaller lot, that's a very rocky section through there as well.
Yeah. Anything else that's, no? Anyone, yes, Sally?
Yes, Michael, I'm a little confused with some of your comments. Is there the potential to have access to the larger parcel from, what's the road?
Hilltop Road?
Hilltop Road.
Yeah, Hilltop Road dead ends at that property line.
So you can then access from Hilltop onto.
Yes. Yes, but since you don't have frontage that meets any of the requirements in that zoning district, you would have to probably put in a road, a private road or a town, well, the town probably wouldn't want to take dedication, but you would have to put in a road to try and then service any lots that you might be able to develop in there.
If you were going to do something
Correct.
large. development.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
If you were going to create as much as one more lot.
Yeah.
If you were going to create as much as
That's
one more
right.
lot,
That's
you would
right.
have to build a road into the property.
What you could do now is just put a driveway into your single-family home on 92 acres, and, you know, that you could do. Anything more than that, yes, any further subdivision would require a fairly significant infrastructure investment. Any other comments from the public? From the board, or questions? Okay, I have a resolution, a seeker resolution here. Let's see. Okay, the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts within uncoordinated environmental quality review as follows in the matter of proposed action involving a September 26, 2013 application by John Imparato personally and on behalf of Frank and Kathleen Robusto for subdivision plat review and approval under Town Code Chapter 101, subdivision of land, to authorize a proposed lot line alteration between lands of John Imparato and lands of Frank and Kathleen Robusto, and the subsequent subdivision of the modified lands of Imparato into a 5.987 acre flag lot with a minimum required 40 feet of frontage and a 92.113 acre remaining lands parcel on Hilltop Road in the rural countryside RC5 district. All is depicted and or otherwise described in the application and supporting information, including a survey map entitled Minor Subdivision and Lot Line Realignment for Lands of Imparato and Robusto, prepared by Robert L. Campbell, L.S., and dated September 9, 2013, and both a short AAF Part 1 and agricultural data statement. 1. Determines upon review of the EAF Part 1 and its own completion of EAF Part 2 in consideration of both the criteria for determining significance set forth at Title 6, Part 617.7C NYCRR and the agricultural protection policies set forth within the New York State Agriculture and Markets Law, that the proposed action as described in the application and being an unlisted action will cause no potential significant adverse impact on the environment and thus issues a negative declaration, determination of non-significance, deeming an environmental impact statement to not be required and stating such will not be prepared. 2. Authorizes the chairman to so execute the first page of the short EAF and directs the planning board clerk to distribute and file, without requirement for publication, the short EAF with negative declaration annotation in the manner set forth within the secret implementing regulations, Title 6, Part 617.12 NYCRR. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Could I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second? Thank you. All in favor? Okay. And we have a, where did John go? Oh, okay. We have a resolution for later this evening approving.
At the end of the agenda.
At the end of the agenda, right.
Got to move on.
Just a question about that. The draft resolution at the end is predicated on the approval and agreement of the robustness. Is that not correct?
They are party to the,
They're party to the application.
Okay, so, but I was hearing ambivalence, so
Yeah.
I just want that
Yeah.
clarified before we move on that resolution.
I'll start off with.
Good point.
The matter can't proceed to completion until there's a merger deed dealing with that.
So we could do this
Dealing with the
and
Robustos
then-
anyway, so
okay.
they could, at some point in time, they could refuse to participate.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd move on to the, in light of the agenda, move on to the Matthews item, I would suggest. And return to resolutions after the major event of the evening.
Right. Okay, this new application, Paul Matthews, Old Post Road subdivision plat. Initial presentation of an application for subdivision plat approval in matter of proposed consolidation of 2 parcels totaling 10.66 acres in the rural countryside RC5 district. Planning board processing under Town Code Chapter 101, subdivision of land and seeker.
Hi, good evening. Mr. Staley for Mr. Matthews. Mr. Matthews owns 3.4 acres in the town of Rhinebeck on Old Post Road, 423704. He would like it to sell, and the owners of a 10.6 acre lot, the Srickus family, would like to buy that land, and so we need a lot line adjustment to erase the line between these two parcels to come up with a 13.66 acre lot with frontage on Old Post Road.
Okay, and it's the 13.66 acre lot that the neighbor wishes to purchase?
No, he's going to purchase a 3.4 acre lot owned by Mr. Matthews.
And he already
He
owns?
10.26 acres
Okay.
adjoining.
Okay,
So this is basically to remove the line between those two parcels.
okay.
Actually, the total is wrong on the agenda. That's all.
Yeah, okay, that's all right. Questions from members of the planning board?
What part of Old Post Road is this on? I can't tell
This
from the map.
lot actually is the center of the Rhinebeck Kill and goes for about 130 feet to the south. It runs, so about 135 foot of frontage from the center of the Rhine Cliff south up Old Post Road to the village line.
Mr. Staley, so we can correct my resolution, what did you indicate to be the acreages of the two existing parcels? I thought 10.66 was the total, but you indicated that 10.66 is the larger of the two, and...
No, actually, according to the tax maps, and that's where I'm getting this acreage from, the Srickus parcel is 10.26.
10.26, and the other is?
3.4.
Okay, so that's 13.66 total then.
That's if I did the math right there.
Right, okay. I have to make a correction in the draft resolution, just modify 10.66 to 13.66. As I also mentioned in the meeting notes, some may be questioning why a matter of consolidation is before the planning board. It is in some communities, it is not in others. Under the subdivision regulations that were adopted, revised regulations that were adopted in 2009 by the town of Rhinebeck, the consolidation of two parcels, including consolidation in their entirety, which is what's happening here, is classified as a minor subdivision. I did carefully check the regulations and determined that there was nothing in there that would allow the planning board to waive the public hearing requirement. You do have the opportunity to waive certain submission requirements, and in this particular case, I certainly recommended, as set forth in the resolution, that a new survey map of the two parcels be required, and that instead the real property map be accepted as a suitable basis, because when this matter, if and when this matter is approved by the planning board, it is not going to require a subdivision plat filing. You're not going to need a subdivision plat to sign. It's simply going to be a letter of authorization to the assessor and to real property tax service. Very good. So the draft resolution is on page 11.
Okay, there will be questions later tonight about what Art just said, so I hope you took notes. Any questions? Okay, I have a draft resolution here. Hello.
Hi, on the application, it's stated incorrectly that it's not in the LWRP, this property is in the
It is in the LWRP, okay. Very good, we'll see that that's corrected. Thank you. Okay. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts as follows on the October 15th, 2013 application by Paul Matthews for subdivision plat review and approval to authorize the proposed consolidation of two parcels, tax numbers given, totaling 13.66 acres in the rural countryside RC5 district. Hello.
And the LWRA.
And the LWRA. Got it right there. Okay. 1, waives requirement for presentation of a survey map. 2, accepts the application and supporting data, including before and after sketches prepared based upon data available from the Dutchess County Real Property Tax Service as adequate for commencing planning board consultant and public review.
Comma, subject to submission of the CAF, coastal assessment form.
Yes. Alrighty. 3, classifies the proposed action as described in the application as an unlisted action under seeker for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required and will not be conducted. Schedules a public hearing on the application for Monday, December 16th at 6:40, I think. And directs the clerk to provide or otherwise cause notice and posting thereof pursuant to the requirements set forth within Town Code Chapter 101, Subdivision of Land. without prejudice to the planning board's consideration of any input received prior to or at the public hearing, authorizes the planning consultant to prepare working drafts of an EAF Part 2, negative declaration under seeker, and a draft seeker resolution and draft approval resolution for review and consideration by the board when timely and if deemed appropriate. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Okay, so a public hearing will be at our 6:40 at our next meeting, and Joni will, take you through the whole notification.
Before the applicant goes, I have a question, simple question. Are both pieces of property currently owned by Matthews?
No, the 10-acre lot's owned by the Sirikis family.
Okay.
Multiple owners, all from the family. The 3.4 is totally owned by Mr. Matthews, and that's a recent change. It was owned jointly by William Clark and Paul Matthews, but it was turned over totally to Paul Matthews. He's the current owner of the 3.4 acres.
Now, can we change the property line if there's two owners?
We would need both to be participants in the
We need,
application.
yeah,
I think we're...
Good point.
the application as submitted the inference in terms of the application as submitted would be that Matthews owned both properties.
That's what my understanding was.
So that's my understanding based on the application.
But as long as
So
there's a
there
legal
would have to be
agreement, as long as there's a legal agreement between the
Right.
buyer and the seller of the properties, and the seller can be, the buyer, can be represented here, we're allowed to do that.
Yes.
We've gone across that before
Yes.
down at...
Yes. Yes.
But it should be documented, and I don't see it documented as it stands right now.
Yeah, or there's documentation that Matthews is in fact representing the other party, as was the Imperato situation
Right.
with respect to Robusto.
Yes, we can get that document. We obviously can't proceed with a sale until we get this lot line adjustment.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. I believe prior to the public hearing, as long as we have that document,
Sure.
that both Matthews and Sirikis are,
Yes.
or that Matthews is representing Sirikis, as Richard said, I think then we can proceed with the public hearing. There's no
I'll make
reason
sure
to...
we'll have that to Joan. before the
Okay.
vote.
There's no reason to hold it up otherwise. Anything else from members of the planning board with eagle eyes catching these little things, which totally escaped my attention? No. Okay, could I hear a motion to approve the draft resolution? A second?
Second.
All in favor? Very good. Okay, next on the agenda, Hudson Valley Rhinebeck LLC, 492 Ackerhook Road, sketch plan submission, initial presentation of sketch plan submission under Town Code, Chapter 125 zoning, on behalf of CB Developers for proposed rock ledge development consisting of a Country Inn 1 and a 49-unit residential development situate within 139-acre parcel, formerly Daytop property, encompassing the Star Miller Manor House and other existing structures and infrastructure, and fronting on Ackerhook and Primrose Hill Roads in the Countryside RC5 district. Gentlemen, do you need the lights dimmed, or?
Yes.
I think it's the light switch over there.
And we do have a hard copy of this to submit afterwards.
Okay, excellent. And all of you should have received this in your mailbox.
I am Charles Blakeman. I'm the current owner of the Rockledge property. The last time I was here, I was under contract, but I closed at the end of September. And I'm going to show you what our thoughts are in developing this property. I guess when we were doing our due diligence, I fell in love with this property when I first saw it, and I wasn't really looking for a property up here. I have a house in Woodstock. I developed mostly in New York City, in Manhattan. But somebody called me up about it. I found it and was intrigued by the historic buildings. That's what really the first thing that turned me on. And the Manor House and the 3 or 4 historic buildings on the property that I just thought were beautiful, and thought about what could be the best use of developing this thing. I knew Daytop wanted out, and they were having some difficulties. And so in looking up the history of this house, I was amazed by how many different uses it had. It was a rehab, as you all know, is for Daytop. It was a vegetarian hotel. It was a club, private club at some point, and of course it was a private residence back in the 20s. And so in thinking about it, I mean, the main manor building there has, the whole basement ground floor is a huge kitchen, and there's banquet rooms, there's parlor rooms that I guess people ate at, and there are residential rooms upstairs. So I thought, obviously, that's a perfect place for an inn. As far as the other buildings themselves, they have uses that could be done commercially, but didn't really fit in as a residential model. The other option was to maybe subdivide this land and have 25 lots, but that didn't seem very interesting because that doesn't help you preserve the historic nature of the place. So in finding out that we could do a cluster development where we put a minimum of 3 units per building scattered around certain parts of the property that are environmentally sensitive. We thought that would be a great way to have a residential component to this, and marrying the two things, an inn and a residential component, was something that we've been interested in, I have been interested in. And, you know, knowing that this area could use a really good hotel, although there are hotels here, another standard, or like a world-class destination, is something that I thought would work. And so Bob Fox is the architect who I asked to get involved with this, not knowing that he was up here. You know, he actually lives up here, but we were working on a project in Manhattan together, and their reputation for environmental and green concerns are, you know, one of the best in the nation, and started talking to him about this and found out he also knows about this area. So I'll let Bob sort of tell you what we're proposing.
All right. Can I talk from here? Do I need?
You probably need that just so that it gets on
Get the
Panda.
television.
All right. Yes, I live here, but I had no idea what Daytop was. I heard the name Daytop. I had no idea where it was, what it did, nothing. So I actually had a little trouble finding this place. But as I look further, the history and the opportunities here are really fantastic. And as Charlie said, our focus is on doing seriously environmentally responsible projects. So we would intend to do this as a lead project, and I understand the board is looking for some guidance in this whole LEED green building stuff, and we would actually expect to use this project as guidance in how someone approaches this. So for those of you who don't, this is just a quick history of where it is. What it is, I apologize for not quite fitting on the screen, but this was an amazing mansion done by Whitney Warren, who's a very famous architect. You may not know the name, but you certainly know his work. This is the Grand Central Terminal. So this is a fantastic architect doing a house for a very, very wealthy person. The way we start all of our projects is to bring engineers, consultants, and our client together for a 1 or 2 day meeting where we sit down and say, okay, what are the goals of this project and what's the best we can do? So we brought Mark Graminsky, who had really understood the property from its natural setting, and Matt Rudikoff and Charlie and some people from our team. And the first thing we did is go out and take a walk on this beautiful property. And I'd driven down the driveway, but I didn't really walk around. And the amazing discovery that we made on this property is that there are some beautiful existing carriage trails. And I'm going to say that about 10 times. That's there. This beautiful roadway system that was laid out by someone who had no trees to look at. There weren't any trees at that time. It was all clear cut. And so they could really understand what the land was all about.
So there's an existing pond on the property that has seen better days. It's all, Jeff, what's that green stuff on there? So certainly the intent would be to restore this pond. There are some amazing buildings. There is a barn on the left that is now called the chapel for some reason. I have no idea, but it is a beautiful structure. This is a little gatehouse at the entry. There's a magnificent carriage house, which has a view out into this south meadow. There are two pump houses. So the property has this amazing resource of taking the water and pumping it up to the highest point on the property and then distributing it, and the manor house itself. And you can see the fire escapes on the west side of this building, kind of indicative that it has seen better days. So certainly the fire escapes would be gone. This is the main access road looking from the property, looking out onto Ackert Hook. And this is just the charrette that we had. One can do these charrettes anywhere. We did it here. Why not? And this is sitting around. These are different people as part of the team writing down goals and things, which we actually take all of this and try and put it into a pretty serious planning document. This is the model that we made. I was going to bring it, but I thought it's a long walk for a model like this. But when we come back, we would have the actual structures and proposed pieces of the property on this model, so you could see it. Just as a reference, this is the manor house, and west is looking up in that direction. So we got this from Mark Kaminsky saying, okay, this is where things are in general. This is Ackert Hook Road, which comes down and turns into Primrose Hill on the left-hand side of the drawing. This is the current main access road, and the mansion. This is, in yellow, is sort of an area that Mark thought would be suitable for development. We certainly have a bunch of wetlands. We have some rock. We have the pond that I mentioned over in this location. So we're pretty aware of where one would want to build something and where one really wouldn't want to build something. These are the historic buildings. This is the cottage that as you come in, this is this beautiful stone barn, the manor house, the pump houses, and this is that carriage house. There are some lesser buildings. There's a residential building of dubious quality, which we may want to keep and redo something with it. Not sure if it becomes a valuable asset or not. This is actually an amazing building. It's a water treatment facility that is currently operating, because if it stops, it's not treating a lot of water, but if it stops, it will not be useful anymore. So there's an amazing gentleman who has run this thing for a long time, and it's a fantastic facility, and I think in the development would become part of the tour that people would want to look at and understand. It's really pretty remarkable. There's some sheds and trailers and other non-important buildings. So what we did as a team is to sit down and say, okay, where have people done this elsewhere in the country, and what could we learn from that? So
it's not exactly, this is just the reuse of stone barns in a farm. A lot of people must know about Blue Hill. It's stone barns, and they just made that into a learning experience, restaurant, farming community, and it successfully puts, redid these barns in an economic way so that it was restored, and there's an education center involved with this, and we just thought it's a beautiful structure on a rural piece of land that really works in a commercial way. There's the gardens at the restaurant, and this is some of the ways that redoing the old structures that sort of inspired us in some of the structures we have as well. And this is the plot plan of how it sits on the land, and what we did is we sort of put our piece of property to show you in relationship how our piece with these blue buildings would sit on a similar type of size property. And this is up Twins Farms in Vermont, and also shows you how these buildings just blend into the environment. And this is, I think, have a for sale product as well as a inn and restaurant, and it's quite beautiful. So we were inspired by that. Another structure over there. And these are just some of the other, architecturally interesting, developments where they've, really blended into the environment and used some of the old buildings to do a commercial venture. And this is the Mayflower in Connecticut, which is also revitalized, helped that town, and it's been a really successful inn and restaurant, and in, I forget what town that is, Washington, Connecticut. And this is in England, called the Babington House, and that's also a hotel and restaurant and inn with cottages. And just, we looked at this historic building and just to show you what we think Rockledge could be, some of the stone structures on the property as well. Beautiful trees. I don't think we can plant, we might be able to plant these. It'll take a while for them to grow like that. And this is in Sonoma, California. The Sea...
This is called Sea Ranch.
Sea Ranch. And this is just about the architecture and how it blends into the hillside, and we'll show you some of these. They take the view into consideration, and nice wood, and blends into the environment.
This is a 40-year-old project that's been built over time by many architects. And it really, it's one of those things that architects study.
One of the inspirations about how to build in the woods and keeping the woods there and having the structure environmentally fitting in.
This is a cluster development by Frank Lloyd Wright. This is in Arizona. There are actually 3 houses there, but it looks like one. And the intent would be in this project to do something similar to that. Not similar to that building, but similar to that it didn't look like 3 buildings kind of banged together. So just going back to where we started, these are the significant buildings, and the carriage roads. The one that comes down at a very gentle slope here. This one follows the contours. There's another one that actually looks down into the pond from this carriage road, and another one that's just out in the woods. So again, back to Mark Kerminsky's plan, that we were very concerned about staying within the confines of this yellow area. So our plan would be to develop along existing roads, and these existing carriage roads. These circles are representing 3-unit clusters. They may deviate slightly from that, but there would be I think the zoning regulations is minimum 3, maximum 5. That we'd locate some along this existing road, some on the carriage road, some in here. We are looking at this area, which is near the road, to be our food growing area and our farm, and we may utilize one of the buildings that's there. This building, which is the former barn, we're thinking of as a recreational facility and a spa, keeping the gatehouse as the gatehouse. And our thought actually was, like many sort of Olmsted plans of parks, that you don't get everything all at once. And this road kind of opens up, the existing driveway kind of opens it all up at once. So the idea here is to come in a different road and meander through. So when you make this turn, you'd be able to see the manor house, and then going around this way, you'd kind of lose the view of that, turn the corner and come back, and you'd see it again. So it's about opening up views and keeping the qualities of the site intact. So again, more residential units here, some overlooking the pond, some overlooking this wetland. And I end with this because that's what this place is all about. To me, the existing house is beautiful, and there's no question about it. It has certainly seen hard times if you go inside. The good news is that the qualities of the inside have not been destroyed. There's a lot of stuff in there, but if you demo it all out, and what's amazing, there's a beautiful, what was a dining hall, now they put another floor in there. And you go in and you say, how did this happen? It didn't make sense until we realized that someone had added a whole floor in this building that didn't belong. So originally this was a dining hall the size of this room, and it was magnificent. Now it's got a ceiling up here. So that is our submission. Where is?
Okay.
Oh. Now, wait.
Did you want to say something? Well, I think we should maybe open up a few questions.
Sure.
I think it's a fascinating presentation. I guess some of the questions that certainly will come up, and I think Mark's tried to demarcate some of it, certainly the environmental constraints on the site, how those will be handled. It will be looking at things such as stormwater, things like that, and trying to deal with that to protect those areas. The capacity of the sewage treatment plant for the size of a project that you want to have here, is it adequate? Will that be, enlarged? Traffic, I know for the people there will be a concern on Ackert Hook Road. It's a small town road. Fairly significant increase of both residential and guest type of traffic could be expected. I guess it's the sort of things that one would expect from any sort of a large-scale project, the different studies that would be required, the different questions we would all be asking.
Well, at its peak, Daytop had 287 residents, plus whatever staff they had to deal with that. So in terms of the sewage treatment plant, that's not a concern. In terms of traffic, I have no idea how those people were moved around because, as I said, I didn't even know where it was.
They were bused. There were vans and things of that sort.
So
We have the employee factor too. I mean, there's quite a few employees going in and out of there every day.
No question.
Yeah, I mean, 49 of these units will be for sale vacation home units. So these people would be coming up, I guess, seasonally, but also, as vacation homes. Not like, we don't expect there to be like people living there all year round, although somebody could. It would be like a condominium association. So, and then it's the 12 rooms and the facilities that we're looking for, which is the restaurant and the spa. So, we don't feel like it'll be an increase in terms, especially in capacity of the water treatment, but we'll find that out once we do further studies.
This is a public restaurant?
We hope so, because in terms of being economically viable to exist, it would probably have to be open to the public as well as the spa would have to be open to the public.
I think Art's made, I think, a very good suggestion. I think possibly one of the things we should do now is try to schedule a site visit to get out for all of us to see the site, get a handle on sort of what you're talking about in the different areas, get an idea of exactly how the different components could sit on the land, how they would integrate together, exactly how that would work. I have not myself been on that property, so it's not something I'm familiar with.
Michael, I made that suggestion in my meeting notes probably the middle of last week. I feel even more strongly about it upon visiting the property on Saturday. And I came away, I think, impressed, as was Bob, by not only the buildings, but by the natural character of that property. It's a wonderful piece of property. It's got fantastic potential. I think in terms of procedure, I certainly believe the field visit, whether it's by portions of the board at a time or the entire board, is in order. It's the best way to understand this particular site. Beyond that, in terms of procedure, what the board will require is the submission of at least the application for the special use permit, accompanied by a full EAF Part 1 based upon the new seeker forms. And with those documents in hand, with the knowledge from a field visit and with the material that's available here in the sketch plan presentation, I think the board could move forward with the lead agency designation process under seeker. I was also very pleased, just for the board's information, for the public's information, to arrive unannounced on the project site on Saturday afternoon and find that that wonderful guy who's been maintaining the property was, in fact, maintaining the sewage treatment plant at that particular instant in the light of keeping it operational and in accordance with the species requirements.
Did you ask?
There daily.
Did you ask him how it worked?
No, it was a quick visit.
Oh, you'd love it.
But later in the day, I just had occasion to speak to John McGuire in another situation, and John apparently was involved in the installation or the modification of both the water supply systems and the sewage treatment plant at that site back in the days when it was the country day school.
So, yeah, I think the reason that we love this photograph is that when we need whole new infrastructure to support this facility, and to try and run it through the woods would be destructive and a mess. We can run it right here. It's a natural pathway for everything that we want to do and provide the least disruption. At the same time, though, we are going to really examine the forests and how can we do the best maintenance and thinning of certain parts of it. How can we do our best to get rid of the invasive species as part of this effort. So I do think that we will, at the end of this project, our goal would make it a better piece of land than it has been over the past 40 or 50, whatever years.
Get the PB and the CAB out there for a field visit.
Yeah, I think field visit is the best thing, and then we can also go over all the different studies that our zoning law is going to ask of you, many of dealing with habitat, environmental considerations, things of that sort. And once we see the property, I think that'll give us a better handle on exactly where we're going, but we need to go forward with the review and all. Although I'm sure you've gone through the zoning law and I'm probably fully aware of it already anyway.
Yes, sir.
So how do we set up a date for that?
That's a good question.
I looked at the schedule again in my meeting notes. If you avoid the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, essentially the near opportunity would be this Saturday. The further opportunity is like the 7th or so of December. You start facing the possibility of inclement weather as you start moving later into the fall.
Yeah, that's.
I can't do this weekend.
We have to notice this to the public since it's going to be an open.
No, this would you would.
If we all come, then it's an open public meeting.
It would be open.
Right.
You probably can't do it this Saturday. Then.
Yeah. That's why I suggested that it perhaps not be a full planning board visit.
Oh, okay.
The easy way to handle this, because you're really not ready for public review at this point in time, because there are no documents. You can have less than the entirety of the board, so you schedule it from 11 to 1 and from 1 to 3 or something like that.
That's an excellent idea. Yeah.
Well, I know Melody can't do it. Who else would have problems this weekend?
It's probably a Saturday or a Sunday based upon work commitments, et cetera, and and daylight hours.
It would have to be early enough. It's dark at 4. And I like the idea of breaking it into 2 groups the same day. I think that's easier on you guys as well. You don't have to come up twice for that. Is the next Saturday the 7th then? That would possibly be available.
7th of December?
December.
You said Saturday or Sunday.
Saturday or Sunday. Would anyone?
7th is Sinterklaas.
Oh, Sinterklaas, okay, that's out. Sunday the 8th, Sinterklaas is the 7th, so that's out. Sunday the 8th, I know, anyone off the top of your heads? I don't know if you all have your calendars.
That works.
We try and do that.
From when to when?
Well, I think we got to figure 4 o'clock, it's going to be dark-ish. Probably start one, I would think, at noon. If we're going to try and do it in two groups, maybe 2 hours each, maybe noon to 2.
I don't think you're going to, yeah.
Yeah, it's that long?
You want to walk a considerable distance, though.
Like noon to 2 and 2 to 4?
Right.
Something like that? And the one group will be 3, and the one group with 4, someone's going to have to lag behind, so they can't be...
We just
Whatever.
coordinate through Joni to
Yeah.
break the group rather than try and figure it out.
But does that work for you guys?
We can have two sets of guides.
That,
so to
okay,
speak,
excellent.
And one set will go off and
whatever.
wander with the first. We'll work it out.
Okay. Does the 8th work for you guys? Okay.
Michael, the other approach you might want to do is think about having it all at once and have it, the group split in half and one go north and one go south.
That's what Bob just suggested, I believe.
That seems.
That's what you just
Bob was
suggested,
just
right?
suggesting?
Everyone arrive at once and just...
No, what I suggested is that we would have two sets of guides.
Right.
And whenever you arrive, Group A will go off
Okay.
in one direction, and Group B can go off in another direction, and to comply with whatever regulation.
I like Woody's idea, because if we all showed up at noon, then at least we know it's going to be light while we're there. And then just break up into two different groups.
Sounds good.
And we can have Joni coordinate, well, actually, we'll all just show up at the 8th at noon, and then we can divvy ourselves up as we choose when we
So
get
that's
there.
in the calendar, we're good?
It works, does it work for everyone? Is there anyone it doesn't work for, December 8th at noon?
No idea.
Yeah, I gotta check with the board.
And invite the CAB to participate.
Invite the CAB to participate.
Yes, I think it would be very important to get the CAB there as well.
And why don't we, I don't know if we need a motion to do this, but confirm that we, unless otherwise something comes up, like a blizzard, we'll meet at noon on December 8th, Sunday, December 8th, at Rock Ledge, and
The exact
proceed from there.
location will be confirmed.
At the Manor House? Meet at the Manor House?
Sure, yeah.
That looks like that's the best parking, and that seems like a normal place you'd want to start, be the Manor House. Excellent. All right, field visit, field trip.
Yay.
Thank you.
Questions? Are there any public questions?
It's not a public hearing yet. This is just sketch plan tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Now for the...
Our next item on the agenda, Jonathan Mensch, Grassmere LLC, Mill Road and New York State Route 9 South, draft generic EIS and special use permit for Grassmere Farm Hotel. Continuation of seeker compliance process as advanced on October 21st, 2013 through acceptance for public and agency review and comment of draft generic EIS in the matter of the proposed Grassmere Farm Hotel, a Country Inn 2 in the Rural Agriculture RA 10 District and Hudson River Natural Historic Landmark District and the town's local waterfront revitalization area being a type 1 action under seeker. Jonathan is...
Okay, and this is...
Are you in an ag district also?
Yeah.
Okay, and an ag district also, okay. Conduct of combined public hearing under seeker and Town Code Chapter 125 zoning on draft GEIS and underlying application for special use permit for Country Inn 2, including project team presentation and subsequent opportunity for public and/or agency comment either at the public hearing or in writing until December 2nd, 2013. And I want to emphasize that if you don't have your comments tonight or whatever, written comments will be accepted on this until December 2nd.
For the record, there also has been a certification by the applicant or by the applicant's project planner and engineer and by the planning board clerk that there has been compliance with the noticing and posting and distribution requirements under the seeker implementing regulations, and there has been publication of the official notice in the official newspaper twice instead of once regarding this hearing as it relates to both seeker and the special use permit. As Michael indicated, the period for written comments will extend beyond this evening to the 2nd of December for the general public as well as the other involved agencies for which the planning board is conducting the seeker review. It should be pointed out that while the public hearing may conclude this evening with respect to seeker, it will be continued on the question of the special use permit until the seeker compliance process is completed. And that means that beyond tonight and beyond the preparation of this draft generic EIS, we anticipate that there'll be a final generic EIS addressing any questions or comments that have been made about the draft, as well as ultimately a issuance of a statement of findings under seeker by the planning board. And that's all going to evolve over the next perhaps 2 to 4 month period.
Gentlemen.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is John Montaigne, planner, landscape architect with Greenman Peterson, and I'm here with Jonathan Mensch, owner of the property. We're going to do a little presentation tonight on what was in the generic environmental impact statement that's under public review right now. So just to give a quick outline of what we're going to do, Jonathan's going to do a little history on the site, talk about our project purpose. He's also going to talk about the design architecture and our relationship to both the LWRP and to the Northern Duchess Alliance. I'm then going to talk about where we stand in the application process right now, a little summary that I did the last time, but for the benefit of the body here, where our current standing is, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the remaining steps in the secret process, the special use permit, and I'm going to get into the environmental analysis, which is the main body of the DGEIS. I'll be very brief. There are about 14 sections in that. I'll focus on the ones that we know we've had some feedback from the public on. And then I'll turn that back over to Jonathan, who will talk about the alternatives, the fact that there is some growth-inducing aspects to this, and some closing comments. So with that right now, I'm going to turn it over to John.
Thank you, John. Can I get my little pointer here? I thought I'd start really by providing an overview of the property itself. This is the Grasmere Farm property. That's in red is the outline. To acclimate everybody, that's Rhinebeck Village up here. This is the Amtrak station down in Rhinecliff. This is Route 9 that runs down this side of the property. This is Mill Road that runs down this side of the property, and then the Landsman Kill that goes down this side as well. And on the property itself, this is the Grasmere Manor House up here, and then these are the stone barns. For people that have been at the property, really, most of the experience has probably been up in this area. These are the historic estate grounds. And as a starting point, I wanted to give a brief overview of our family's history with the property. And my father's here in the audience tonight also. This started really, he had bought about 25 years ago, a 25-acre parcel, which is right off of Mill Road. It's got the waterfall on it. He built a house there. After that, an additional parcel became available with some woodland, and that was bought for protection reasons. The heart of the Grasmere property is about 450 acres, and that included the old stone barns. That really is this whole area in here. And my father purchased that about 20 years ago, really with the idea that given its access to Route 9, there was a concern about it being developed for a residential subdivision. One of the real wows of the property is this open field in here and the views that are associated with the manor house and the stone barns. And the idea of this really wonderful piece of property being turned into a bunch of housing lots was something that we didn't want to see happen. So it was really a purchase that was about preventing something that we didn't want to see, as opposed to necessarily having a vision for what we did want to see. And as part of that, this is the condition of the stone barns when they were purchased. There was a fire in the barns. They were almost lost for good. We then, or my father more specifically, then rehabilitated the barns. These are the barns today. We had looked at one point in terms of using the barns as a potential residential property. They're wonderful. They're about 25,000 square feet. It's a very difficult project in that context. It's not really a great use for them. It's hugely expensive. And what we then saw as an opportunity was the manor house. This is the view, actually. This is the view from next to the barns over the main open field. This is what I was talking about the view shed and what we didn't want to see impacted. What we, though, saw was the ability to combine the old stone barns with this. This is the old Grasmere Manor House. And this was really the final part of reassembling the historic Grasmere Farm property. And this was an attractive scenario because it allowed for the entire property to be reunited, but also to serve as the basis for an adaptive reuse program that was based around hospitality use. We saw the opportunity to combine these buildings and then to do a project that would be focused around the old estate grounds, which would preserve the open space and the open fields, but provide a use for this property that was economically viable moving forward. And really by combining almost two challenging individual properties, we managed to create a situation that was a great canvas for what we're trying to do today. And this is just a slide that illustrates the condition of the manor house. It's a wonderful building. It's still structurally sound, which is very important. But in terms of what's going on inside, it needs a lot of work. These are some of the building systems. This is water damage that's happened over the years. It's a building that's really reached an inflection point. It needs a new roof. And if it's going to be salvaged, something's got to happen pretty quickly with the building, and which is part of what we're proposing to do. Now this, as a starting point to a description of the project, this is an important image, at least in our minds. This is the site plan of the estate area from 1915. This is the Grasmere Estate building. These are the stone barns. And this is the area around here, which were the estate grounds back then. This was set up in such a way in which there was a formal garden behind Grasmere. There's a pergola here. There were plantings. And then there was an access that related the manor house building to the open fields. We looked at this as a sort of template for what we could start to consider with respect to the development that we're doing now. This next image is an image that really, in a lot of ways, it's bigger, but it sort of speaks to the soul of what we're trying to create. This is Grasmere Farms back in I think it's 1917 that this map was created. This is when Monsell Crosby owned the land, and he was the last guy that really farmed the property, and he had broken up this entire piece into a bunch of areas, each of which he'd named individually, and you can't probably see this on the slide, but it's really pretty neat. And back then, this was all pasture land. These were the areas up here where the crops were grown and the apples were grown. And this was the old, the manor house up in here and the stone barns. But we look at this as really an inspiration for some of what can be recreated today and some of what we have already actually started to do with respect to reestablishing at this point a hay operation and to start a pasturing program to bring some more active agricultural use to the property. The project purpose. This is an overview of what we're planning to put into place as part of the Grasmere project. The first is the adaptive reuse of the manor house and the estate grounds for a boutique hotel. It would phase over time up to 110 lodging units. The lodging units would be comprised of guest rooms, suites, and then eco cabins, and I'll describe a little bit later what we mean by that. The next is the stone barns, which would be turned into a top restaurant and an event center. And there was that reference earlier tonight to Blue Hill Stone Barns, which was interesting. That's something that we've looked at a lot also. Some similar themes were running through that. The next is a spa facility, which we're imagining would be built around part of the estate grounds. And then an enhancement of the farm infrastructure, sustainably grown and raised produce, limited pasturing, and artisanal farm products. The requirement for the project is 250 acres under zoning. We would set aside 250 acres for the country in two. This just shows how the land's available. If we ultimately subdivided it, we would then have to create the 250 acres, but this just illustrates 250 acres as part of the 525 acre property. The next piece is a big planning consideration when we got into it was parking on site, as well as access, traffic access, which we'll speak about also later. But trying to keep this part of the property maintained as a real estate ground and not have it become something that was overrun by traffic and cars turned out to be something that wasn't easy to accomplish. We've created a situation in which cars would be valeted. And this area over here becomes the sort of operations area. This is where deliveries are made, this is where the trash is picked up, and this is where when people arrive on the property that are staying as a hotel, this is where their cars are taken. They can come to the manor house and then the cars get taken over here. This is also the employee parking area. So we made the decision to put everything in this area. From an operational perspective. Then the last is the use of the historic roadways and entrances. Almost all of what's being used as roadways as part of this project were the old carriage road and estate roads that existed on the property before. This is the development zone site plan, and I'll get into each of the pieces in a little more detail, but quickly, there's really three main pieces of it. The first is the Grasmere Manor House, which becomes the focal point for the hotel and spa area, which is up here. The second is the stone barn area, which is down here, which becomes the restaurant and the event center. Then the last piece are additional hotel rooms, which we've got broken into standalone eco cabins, which line these ponds here, and then a coach house building, which is this building right here, which is also comprised of guest rooms. From a design perspective, this here is the Grasmere Manor House, and we felt that it was very important to create a situation in which the Manor House still commanded the situation up in the estate area. This building's about 3.5 stories high. So what we've done is we've created a situation where these other buildings are designed to be subservient outbuildings to the main Grasmere Manor House. This building here, there's actually 2 buildings. These are guest rooms. This is a 2-story building, but it can be actually built back into some of the tree line and using some of the existing trees and some additional screening to cover it up a little bit. These other buildings are 1-story buildings, and the idea is that they can be built in such a way in which they really do read as outbuildings to the estate. And it keeps this existing manor house as front and center. And then they'd be connected by a glass walkway. So if people were staying in any of the guest rooms, they could access the manor house and access the spa area, which is over here, just by walking through the grass walkway. They wouldn't have to go outside, which from a seasonality perspective, we thought was pretty important. This here is the stone barn, and this becomes the main restaurant for the building, or for the project here. This is then the carriage house building, which is also an existing building. This back in here becomes a retail outlet, which we're imagining being sort of a perpetual farmer's market for the goods that are being produced out in the fields, but then also from other local producers. That could all be sold in here on an ongoing basis. The last piece is, we're calling it an event pavilion, but it's an enclosed building. It's a soundproof building that we're building. Actually, this side of it here, you can sort of see on the diagram, it's into the slope. And we're doing that for a couple reasons. The first is because there's no more effective way to soundproof a building than to build it into an earthen wall. But also, it keeps the roof line low, so it preserves that view shed that I showed you earlier that exists between the manor house and the main field. You can just see over the top of this, so if you're standing up here, this isn't impacted. We also then reestablished this access line here between the manor house and the main field. This is designed to be a pool area down here, and we're imagining that we're going to be restoring some of the garden area up in here as part of the estate grounds. The next piece here is the coach house building, and this is designed with an old coach house as a clear reference. It's got about 26 or 28 rooms in it, depending on the final configuration. There's also a common area down here, and we've set this up in such a way that it can fit pretty nicely into the estate landscape. It's also an opportunity for, if a group was going to come up, a corporate group or a group that was coming up for a personal event, they'd have the ability to take over this whole building, and then they could have their own functions in the common area down here, and it would provide for some privacy but still accommodate a larger group. The last piece are the eco cabins. And we're calling them eco cabins for a couple reasons. But first, they're all being built on piered footings, and we're doing that so that the impact on the land is really going to be minimal. These buildings are designed to sit in the landscape as opposed to having a foundation, which would require excavation and would require a lot more earthwork. These can, and they're also going to be prefab buildings in the sense that they're going to be manufactured off-site, not in the sense that they're going to be cheaply made, but it's a design program that is going to allow for a lot of this to be manufactured in pieces and then brought on site and erected in a way that's going to have a very limited impact on the land. It's also going to create a situation in which we can put these buildings around some of the nice old existing trees and really work them into the landscape as opposed to really impacting the landscape. Then these are the three, there's 3 entrances to the property. The first is the primary entrance, and this is something that we spent a lot of time looking at because we felt that traffic and managing traffic was really important as part of integrating this property into the neighborhood in a way that was going to work well. The first is the primary entrance, and this is going to get the most traffic, and this is on Route 9. This is an old, you can't really take this picture, but if you managed to bushwhack back in here, you'll find a couple old pillars. This is down on Route 9, a little bit north of Wheeler Road, south of Ackerd Hook, and this would be the restaurant or the entrance for the restaurant and all of the events. So any event that was happening on the property would enter and exit right off of Route 9 on this, using this entrance here. The second these people might recognize. These are two brick pillars. If you're coming south on Route 9 and you go around the cornfield and start heading down, you can see these on your right-hand side. They're a little bit obscured, but this would be for all of the staff and the service. So all of that would be happening also off of Route 9. Then this piece is the Grasmere entrance, the main entrance right now, which is the historic entrance to the Manor House. And this would be used, but it would be really limited access use. This would be just for hotel guests. The next this is the LWRP, and we'd spent a good amount of time going through the LWRP to make sure that we were in compliance with the stated goals of the town, and really in every way that is relevant within the LWRP, we are. And I'll just read a couple of the stated policies, and they're sort of self-explanatory. But the first, policy 1A, which is sort of front and center, encourage growth of the tourism sector of the town economy through the revitalization, redevelopment, preservation, and enhancement of areas and structures within, in our case, the estate's scenic district. And then it gets into protecting, enhancing, and restoring structures, districts, areas, and sites that are of significance in the history, architecture, and archaeology of the area. It's 23A is almost a repetition of 23. The next speaks to ways that development should take place on a site, which is really clustering and orienting structures to retain the views, save open spaces, provide visual organization to a development. This is all what we were trying to accomplish through the clustering and through actually the whole nature of the program. Incorporating structurally sound existing structures, especially historic buildings, into the overall development scheme. That's obviously front and center for what we're doing. Then a number of these others, I won't read them all. The next then is preserving and protecting agricultural lands. That's obviously another important part of the property. And then it gets into some of the technical pieces that John's going to talk about: best management practices for stormwater, requisite standards for wastewater treatment, habitat and wetland studies, all of which we've done. This I added too, because this is a really neat document. This is the blueprint for economic development that the Northern Duchess Alliance created. And it speaks to the creation of a locally based economic infrastructure, meaning local businesses, supporting local businesses, developing local businesses, and creating almost a community-based economy where money is spent in local businesses and then cycled through the local economy. So we get $1 spent in a local store will go through several cycles of also local spending. It's the benefits of local ownership, and it's very much what's been happening in the village and then in this area with some of the local farms. And they're really positive. It's a really positive way to look at how economic development can happen in this area. But it also, there's a part of it in which that chain needs to start someplace. And these are the ways that the Northern Duchess Alliance identified for that to happen. The restoring, preservation, protection of natural and cultural heritage, supporting, protecting the needs of local farmers and farms, encouraging economic development focused on both the resident and the tourist, promoting regional and local tourism, smart growth practices, and then development to hamlet and village and town centers. And a lot of what we're trying to create with this project is really going to the idea that it can help start that chain. We're going to be sourcing our own products locally. We're going to be creating a situation in which the emphasis is on a Hudson Valley experience that's based around open space preservation, historic preservation, and farming. And what we're creating, we hope, is going to be something that's going to highlight some of the real strengths of the area. And the people that are coming up to stay at the Grasmere Farm Hotel are going to be people that are going to want to go out and also experience other local farms and other local businesses, and are going to be putting money into the economy. John, this is the next piece here.
Okay. I think what's really important, and the reason we spent so much time talking about how this project was envisioned, and how the property was put together, and then how the concepts were developed, is that the intent on this site is to be very, very environmentally sound and very compliant with a few of the major planning documents in the town, one being the LWRP and the other being the Country Inn 2 zoning regulations. In order to move our project forward, we had to have an action that started our seeker process, and that action is the special use permit. And that's one thing that Art alluded to before, that the special use permit, the action on that can't take place until after we complete the seeker environmental review. And so that's what we are doing tonight, is going through the public hearing portion of the environmental review, and we've done this with a generic environmental impact statement. Now, a generic environmental impact statement is a little bit different than a site-specific environmental impact statement, in that this is really intended to look at a master plan, which is what we've shown here as a master plan for this whole property, that will be developed over time in phases. The application process started back in June of this year. That started with a narrative concept master plan in fully AAF form, which then led to the planning board circulating and then taking on lead agency status to coordinate the review. An outline scope was put together for the generic environmental impact statement, and that's what was adopted by the planning board as the lead agency and provided to us as the applicant to do our analysis and our environmental investigations. As part of that, the draft generic environmental impact statement was developed and circulated internally to the town in September for comments, and the final document was produced and then provided to the town for what's known as completeness review. The completeness review is just, has the applicant addressed all of the issues that were in the outline scope. That document was accepted by the planning board. Whoops, knew I was going to do that. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. That document was accepted by the planning board on October 23rd as being complete. And what that means is it's complete and ready for public review. On October 28th, we started the public comment period. And there are minimum time frames. We've allocated a longer time frame from that. We've got a 6-week public comment period as a minimum here. As was alluded to before, that comment period ends on December 2nd at 4 o'clock, and written comments will be taken to them, and oral comments tonight will be taken on this, and that's the public comment period, which will be then used to create the final generic environmental impact statement for the town planning board's use. This past weekend, on Saturday, November 16th, there was a open tour of the property for anybody interested from the public. I believe we had about 40 people that walked the property to look at it, and really the intent was to make sure that it was very accessible so people could see actually one of the main things is to see the beauty of it. It was a fantastic day. And so this is where we are today. We're at the public hearing on November 18th, and we hope to accept some oral comments tonight, and also invite you all to issue or to submit written comments for us between now and December 2nd. After December 2nd, those comments will be taken and gathered and organized, and they will become the main substance comments of the FGEIS. The DGEIS that's been submitted will become reference to that and be part of the final GEIS. The planning board actually takes on a significant role at that point, because that becomes a document of the planning board as the lead agency. When they accept the FGIS, then they use that to evaluate and issue their finding statement on the project. And so that's kind of in a nutshell how the seeker process works. The outline scope that was put together back in the summer had these 14 sections in it. I think the only thing I really want to do on this slide is just point out that there's a combination of both physical environmental issues that are looked at, such as topography, soils, water resources, stormwater management, terrestrial and aquatic ecology. But then there's also cultural and land use issues that are looked at. Obviously, that would include historic and cultural resources, but it also looks at how this project impacts and fits into the community. So how does it fit into land use and zoning? How does it comply with LWRP consistency review? And then other issues such as traffic circulation, the visual character of the site, any noise impact issues, and then the impact on community services. I'm going to touch briefly on a few of the items that are in here, and then I have slides that I have that I'll just briefly talk about each one of the issues, but I don't want to spend a whole lot of time going through the detail on it. The main thing to remember here is that the way that this site was designed was to be very compliant with environmental regulations. Stormwater management is one of the biggest things that leads to a lot of protection on this site. Stormwater regulations control things like soil and erosion control protection, impacts to wetlands, impacts to water courses, construction impacts, and so forth. And so that covers a lot of the environmental conditions that are in here. But other studies were done. I'm going to start with one that I know has some interest in the area, and we spent a lot of time in the design of the site on, and that has to do with traffic and circulation on the property. As John noted before, one of the most important things that we looked at here was how do we get flow into the site and yet still keep a lot of the vehicles and the cars out of the center of the property where we want to have our main development. We want this to be a very pedestrian-oriented estate feeling. We don't want a lot of cars driving through. We don't want a lot of through traffic. And so what we did in the design, as John pointed out, was to look at these three primary access points. And this drawing really illustrates the three entrances that John showed before in those photographs. The primary entrance for events and restaurants is actually the main entrance to the site. And this one will be, it will have the entrance signage for the restaurant, for the event pavilion, and it'll be the one location where, when there are larger gatherings, a wedding or something like that, is where people will be coming in and going out of the property. Right? So anytime that there is something that generates more than just a couple of cars at a time, they'll all be coming through here. The beauty of what we have here is that this is an existing entrance that lets us have a nice grand entrance up to the stone barns. And as you remember, one of our main influences here was the ag land, and we want people to experience that. And so as you drive in this entranceway, you get glimpses through the woods of the open farmland, which is being restored and active right now. Then you come up to this area here where you make a little sweep that comes around, and you can see these two existing ponds that are on the property. This is the beginning of an elevation change that starts to rise up to where the stone barns are. It's a very dynamic approach to the barns, and then as you come around this turn to where you would come into where the restaurant and the existing carriage house is, it's just another amazing view. And then off in the distance, in the background, you can actually see the manor house. So this is our most dynamic entrance, and it's also our most heavily used entrance. John also noted that the intent is to have our staff and service come off of another existing entrance that comes off of Route 9. This area up in here is a wooded area. There's an old carriage trail that does come through here. And as John noted before, our intent is to have our service up in here, our valet parking in here, and all of the deliveries and everything else that comes into the property. The intent being that this area is kind of our backstage. It's away from the guests. I don't know if you've been to nice facilities before, and invariably you turn the corner and there's the dumpster. We don't want that here. This gives us the ability to avoid that. Service in the property then would be through carts and other vehicles that we would use to move our services around, but you don't see that backstage. And then finally, as John noted, the existing historic entrance, which is the tree-lined alley, comes off of Mill Road. And that, again, is intended to be a very limited, no-event traffic in that area.